2025 is the kickoff for the Disney parks to break ground on their shockingly long project to-do list. And unlike years prior, the conditions are a little bit different. In addition to Universal's Epic Universe opening in May and the competition that it will bring to Walt Disney World, Disneyland has the green light to move some major dirt thanks to Disneyland Forward. Plus, at D23 in August, Disney Parks Chairman Josh D'Amaro said everything they're sharing is in active development. This is not blue sky. And Disney told the media there that what is announced is intended to open within the next 5 years. So if all of that is true, Disney has a whopping 24 new attractions and experiences to open by 2030 just in the US alone. Some of those project timelines we know, others we don't. But if all stays on track, at least 14 new attractions and experiences could open by 2027. So for this video, and the beginning of this new wonderful world of Disney park construction, I'm going to chronologically break down all 24 new offerings on Disney's stateside slate, including when they're either scheduled or projected to open, some predictions, some additional information, and a few of my own takes and opinions. I'm actually a little iffy on whether every upcoming project is a winner, and there are actually some that I think fans are underrating. So let's get into it, and since this is chronological, I'm starting with the first new attraction on Disney's upcoming roster, and that is Walt Disney: A Magical Life. Opening May 16th, and for the launch of Disneyland's 70th anniversary, this is that Walt Disney animatronic show you've been hearing about. And after some initial misgivings of my own, I'm really looking forward to it, especially since it's offering us fans the experience of getting to visit Walt in his office. I fully expect the show to dominate headlines when it debuts in May, meaning the stakes are really high from a publicity perspective. Disney has to get this right, as failing to do so may come off as disrespectful, which Disney fans will not let the company get away with, especially during the 70th anniversary. But again, I'm optimistic. I think Disney gets how important this show is, and I've heard some amazing details and Imagineering efforts to make this experience as authentic as possible. I actually filmed a video about this a few months ago, talking about all those details, as well as the items in Walt's real office compared to what you're seeing in the concept art and why. And if you're as interested in Disney history in detail as I am and want to learn more about the importance of this particular office, please check that out. But I do want to stress that the attraction description suggests this personal chat with Walt is not the entire show. There is a film that precedes it, and I'm curious to know just how long the Walt animatronic portion of the attraction is going to be by comparison. Moving over to Walt Disney World and opening in late spring 2025 is Epcot's Spaceship Earth Lounge. I have some opinions about this lounge trend happening at the Disney World parks. I'll get more into that later in this video, but this lounge is supposed to offer amazing views of the park and of course be inspired by Spaceship Earth. Not really that excited for this one. It looks very sterile, very generic, and all the adjectives in the description suggest it's going to be on the pricey side. So be warned about that, but I'm thinking it's going to open probably early May and ahead of Memorial Day. That's my prediction there. Next up for 2025 is Disney Starlight, aka the Magic Kingdom's new and long overdue nighttime parade. Right now, this parade only has a vague summer opening date, but I'm expecting it'll be open by Memorial Day to kick off the summer season. I confess I have become a little less enthused about this parade since it doesn't exactly appear to be new at all, but rather a version of a parade from, I want to say Tokyo Disneyland. That overseas parade also has the Blue Fairy leading the way and a Main Street Electrical Parade inspired soundtrack, which is the same description as Disney Starlight. Still, it does seem like we are getting some new floats, including that Moana float that was unveiled at D23 Brazil. Another new attraction opening sometime this summer is Hollywood Studios' The Little Mermaid, a musical adventure. This is that replacement show for Voyage of the Little Mermaid, and which will retain the 1989 animated film's inspirations, which is something Disney seems to really want fans to know. I would think this show would debut in early summer, possibly Memorial Day as well, especially since it was originally supposed to open in fall of 2024, so it should be ready to go. Another new show opening this summer and at Hollywood Studios in the former Lightning McQueen Racing Academy building is Disney Villains Unfairly Ever After. This show is a precursor to Magic Kingdom's Villains Land, and the premise is that it's not about who's the fairest of them all, but who's been treated the most unfairly. This production is already under a magnifying glass given its Villains Land connections, and Disney has been talking about it a lot, possibly in response to Epic Universe's Dark Universe Land. And while I'm sure the show will be amusing, I gotta be honest, I do not expect it to drown out or even rival with Epic Universe's Dark Universe Land. I also don't expect it to open at the same time as the new Little Mermaid show, as they both would likely cannibalize each other being in the same park. So, at the moment, I am predicting a late summer opening in order to give this show its own time to shine, but I'm definitely keeping my eyes open for any reports to the contrary. Speaking of late summer, that is the opening window Disney has given us for the new version of Test Track, which is now presented by General Motors. Construction on the exterior has been ongoing, and vehicle tests are expected to begin in the spring. But apart from a storyline that was once described as being inspired by Epcot's original World of Motion attraction, something we haven't heard much about since, this whole redo is a big mystery, and I've definitely lowered my expectations as a result. Here's hoping I'm wrong. Moving from land to sea, the Disney Destiny, Disney Cruise Line's next new ship and the sister ship to the Wish and Treasure, will set sail November 20th of 2025. This ship has a very unique heroes vs. villains theme, which I wasn't so sure about at first, but the Black Panther Wakanda Grand Atrium has won me over, and after seeing the Disney Treasure, I'm beyond excited to see how Imagineering is going to level up even more and what they're going to offer us aboard. Now, in late 2025, the Magic Kingdom's Pirates of the Caribbean Tavern is set to debut in Adventureland and right next door to the Pirates of the Caribbean attraction. This is described as a family lounge, so kids are welcome. And Disney has teased magical surprises and effects. But if you're familiar with my channel, you know that the last piece of concept art we got for this space makes me think it's been budget cut. And this may be a hot take, but I do not like the lounge trends. I'm really over them with their themed overpriced drinks. I think it's an easy money grab. This idea should have been used for a restaurant and with a Captain Jack character meal that works for both adults and for kids. As for when it will open, however, I'm predicting a fall opening, possibly right before the Thanksgiving and holiday rush. Over at Animal Kingdom, Zootopia Better Zoogether, which is the new 4D show replacing It's Tough to Be a Bug Inside the Tree of Life, is slated to open winter 2025. I would think, if they can pull it off, this will open right ahead of the holiday crowds. And something to note, Zootopia 2 opens November 26th, so expect a Zootopia-heavy holiday season for 2025. Let's now talk about 2026, beginning with the Mandalorian and Grogu overlay for Millennium Falcon Smugglers Run. I am so happy they're finally giving us a new mission for this attraction. Disney has not given an exact date yet, but since the Mandalorian and Grogu movie opens May 22nd, 2026, I could easily see a joint promotion opportunity by unveiling the overlay at the same time as the movie. And just a reminder, this overlay is coming to both Disneyland's Galaxy's Edge and Galaxy's Edge at Walt Disney World's Hollywood Studios. Shockingly, we know of nothing else that's officially confirmed to open in 2026, at least right now, but here's what I think will open in 2026, with the first being Stark Flight Lab. This is the second new attraction coming to Avengers Campus at Disneyland's Disney California Adventure, where guests will ride in these pods attached to a mechanical arm and test out some Tony Stark tech. It's a simple ride, but I think it looks pretty cool, and I really like the glass ride building and the potential for Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man wisecracks more than anything else. But since this is a pretty simple, off the line kind of ride system, this could easily be open by 2026. The question is whether the new ride building for this will interfere with construction for Avengers Infinity Defense, or if Disney wants to open Flight Lab in conjunction with Infinity Defense, which I think will open later on, not 2026. Switching back to Walt Disney World, I fully expect 2026 to be the year that Muppet Vision closes and that the Muppets Radio of Rock and Roller Coaster will open. Let's now move on to 2027, which is a major year. We do have several confirmed openings, including Animal Kingdom's Tropical America's Land, which is also known as Pueblo Esperanza. This is the land replacing Dinoland USA, with half of the land going behind construction walls this month, which is January, for its first construction phase. With this land, we are getting 3 new attractions, including the Encanto Dark Ride, the Indiana Jones overlay of Dinosaur, and a new Craftsman-style carousel featuring animals from various Disney films. The entire land is confirmed to open sometime in 2027, but my question is whether the whole land will open at one time, or if the Encanto Dark Ride will open in, let's say, early 2027, while Indiana Jones opens later that year. We'll have to see how construction goes and if it can remain on track, but I personally have really high hopes for this land. I know not everyone feels that way, but I truly think that Disney fans are going to be surprised by what Imagineering has in store here. A prediction of mine for 2027 is that Avengers Infinity Defense, the long-awaited King Thanos multiverse ride for Disneyland's Avengers Campus, could be ready to open. Is 2 years an ambitious timeline for this attraction? Probably. But because the ride was announced back in 2022, and since Disney is beginning construction on this in the coming days, I really think Disney wants to fast-track this project. Also, Avengers Secret Wars opens in 2027, which, like the ride, is also expected to feature every MCU character imaginable. So I think the goal is to offer both ensemble crossovers within the same year if possible. Another prediction for 2027 is the opening of Monstropolis, that Monsters Inc. land replacing Muppets Courtyard at Hollywood Studios, and which will offer 2 new attractions, the Door Vault Coaster and a new show in the Muppet Vision 3D Theater. According to Josh D'Amaro, and I want to say before all the Muppet backlash, construction was said to begin in 2025. I think this is more for the coaster than the land itself, as the ride building for the Door Vault Coaster looks as if it will be constructed outside the current perimeter of the park. Therefore, the rest of the courtyard, I would think, will remain functional for at least most of 2025. And since the rest of the land is more of a reskin of its pre-existing structures, I think 2027 is really realistic, but I'm going to lean late 2027. I have to say, though, I do wonder just how enthusiastic Disney is for this project now, given all the Muppets backlash and, I guess, somewhat lukewarm response to all of this news. Another late 2027 contender is the Magic Kingdom's new Cars Land, which will offer 2 new rides, the Rally Race Ride and a kid-friendly Cars-themed attraction, as well as all the additional mountainscapes, waterfalls, and so on. This project is going to take so much work. Not only the replacing Rivers of America, but they're constructing mountains plus an outdoor ride structure. So I'm not confident that it will open in 2027. The only reason I'm saying it's a contender is because Disney wants to begin work on this like yesterday. And given their emphasis on Villains Land, I think they'll want this done as quickly as possible in order to move on to tackle that land. We'll see. There are so many variables with this project that it's one of the more difficult ones to predict right now. Lastly, I do think Lakeshore Lodge, which is the next DVC resort on the docket, which will be located next to Fort Wilderness, will also open in 2027. Disney officially announced this resort using the old pre-pandemic concept art for Lakeside Lodge. So Disney's vision for this DVC destination is a bit of a mystery right now, but I expect that to clear up pretty soon. Moving on to 2028, this is the year I'm expecting Disneyland's Coco attraction, which was a surprise announcement at D23. Just where it's going at Disneyland is up for debate, but since construction isn't expected to begin until 2026, I think 2028 is a safe bet for its debut. For my last two projects, I'm going to cheat a little because I think either of these two will open in 2029 or 2030. And that's Magic Kingdom's Villains Land and Disneyland's Pandora, the World of Avatar. So let's start with Villains Land, which I think Disney would like to have open by 2029, if not earlier. We're also getting two significant attractions for Villains Land. We already know about the Maleficent Coaster. The second attraction is a mystery, but Disney has alluded to a high-level dark ride featuring all of the villains. We'll see if that proves to be the case. I personally think 2030 for Villains Land is the most realistic projection. But again, since Disney is really leaning into this project, who knows? Maybe they're aiming for something sooner. Maybe they have a plan for Cars Land and Villains Land construction to be done at the same time. We'll just have to see. Last but certainly not least, in my book anyway, is Disneyland's own Pandora, the World of Avatar, coming to Disney California Adventure, but based on Avatar 2, The Way of Water. I am beyond excited about this land. It's one of my personal favorite projects in the pipeline because it looks fantastic. And I cannot wait to see Imagineering offer a different spin on what they did with Animal Kingdom's Pandora. And if that level of Imagineering can be achieved again without Joe Rohde in the driver's seat. Plus, that boat ride they showed at D23, that looks pretty epic. At the moment, Disney hasn't confirmed just where in Disney California Adventure this Pandora is going or when it will open, but I'm predicting 2029 or 2030 because this is going to take a lot of time, especially if they're planning to use the Shanghai Pirates of the Caribbean tech for its attraction. So there you have it. That's the 20 plus new attractions and lands that are expected to open at Walt Disney World and Disneyland by 2030. But more answers are coming. Not only will construction and permits tell us a lot in the coming weeks and months, but this year's destination D23 in Florida is already being marketed as a major event, meaning this is when and where we'll get more concrete timelines, details, concept art, and possibly even a few other projects to add to this list. But I do have two questions for you, which is when you think Cars Land and Villains Land will open at Magic Kingdom. Do you agree that Disney may be prioritizing and fast-tracking these Magic Kingdom projects? And secondly, which upcoming attraction or land are you most looking forward to that isn't Villains Land? I'm taking that one off the board because it would probably win. So share your number twos if Villains Land is your number one. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Also, if you love Disney Park news and analysis, and if you enjoyed this video, it would mean the world if you would consider hitting the like button and subscribing. I'd love to have you along for all the news, construction, and reveals that's about to hit in the coming weeks and months. But regardless, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a magical day.